But today, I'm going to take all that I've read and commented on and do my own take on High Elves, whom I define as a largely unorganized group of separatists who
Oh my god, you did not just say that. How dare you?
Did you just do a... You like... Dude, you did a thing.
What thing?
That. No. Hey. Go back to what he did. No, you look different.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The High Elves are gonna die out.
Oh no, you didn't.
Oh, come on! Hey, it's Soul. It's May 4th, 2018. Thanks.
You're welcome.
This is Warcraft Weekly. That's Bob. Let's get started. Today's episode is brought to you by Talon and Curse. Talon and Curse, fresh brewed coffee, well grounded, and with little hints of a weed killer. We have yet another great show for you, full of little updates, little news bits here and there. Starting with a blue post that gives a tentative soon as to when are we going to finally get the PTR patch for the Battle for Azeroth. As you already know, about a month or so before an expansion launches, there is a systems pre-patch where all the major and crazy changes that are meant to happen, well, they happen. In the context of Legion, by that time, everything's going to change. Artifacts are probably going to go away. Legendaries and all sorts of numbers. The stat squish is going to come. We have it pretty much confirmed that the major events that lead up to the Battle for Azeroth are going to happen during this pre-patch, including the battle over in Ashenvale and Darkshore, as well as the battle for Lordaeron itself.
Ooh.
And there are a number of people across the forums and videos and such who are a little bit concerned. Oh my god, it is coming so soon. It's not ready. The classes are like, it's in shambles. It's going to be a disaster. Which is like the same old conversation that we've had, I believe, prior to every other expansion that's come in WoW since. I have no doubt that's also going to happen in WoW's 14th expansion when Thrall and his kids are trying to go to a concert, and then we're spending tier 1 getting tickets, tier 2 getting in line, tier 3 enjoying the concert, but we have to save the headliner, and then all of a sudden you, Thrall, and his kids are performing on stage, and where am I going with this?
To the ground, baby.
To the ground! Woo! So where are we at when it comes to the beta and the things that we need to have left tested? And as another reminder, today is Friday. Double check your client, make sure whether or not you're in the beta. If you are, great, celebrate it in the comment below. If not, F the world and rage in the comment below. Talon Curse, it was about coffee. You got that right. If you too are interested in having your name called out and be humiliated in public, take a look at the Patreon link below. We're getting well into the raid testing. We had a number of bosses that were tested this week, which is kind of interesting when you consider the Legion alpha and beta when there was raid testing done way back in that day. So it kind of tells me that at least back in the Legion days, they weren't sure quite when they were going to launch the Nightholders raid. We, as you all know, we had the Nighthold raid several months after the expansion started, as opposed to it being a very, one of an initial tier. But I guess it was an initial tier, technically. In this case, we have eight bosses to look forward to over in Uldir. Raid testing, as said, it's well on its way. And you'll get no feedback here. It's not what I do. The last set of dungeons have been made testable in the beta, and they're pretty much, well, not ready to go, but they're all ready to be tested out. As a reminder, as you're leveling, you're only going to get access to the dungeons over on your home continent. So on Xandar, you get a nice little bucket. On Kul'Tiraz, you get a nice little bucket there. Once you hit max level, then you get access to the other factions dungeons as max level content. Anyway, those were kind of the beta testing updates for this week, but what do we have left to check out? One is the full-on war mode, which I am still pretty excited about. How is this bounty mode going to work out? What the heck are assassins? And there are supposed to be other small game modes that were alluded to in several blue posts, but we don't know what they are yet. And they did say that they wanted to keep this sort of feature limited, at least for now, while they test the waters, see how this thing works. I'm still pretty confident that they're going to have some sort of seething shore kind of mechanic where all of a sudden, boom, a big old thing of Azerite pops up, the whole zone is going to be notified, and anyone in the vicinity is going to be like, oh my god, I gotta get that, and people are going to go in there and beat the crap out of each other in the name of, well, I think some people are just going to go there to beat the crap out of each other, and who cares about the Azerite prize. But it might be fun, and I'm eager to test that out, and more importantly, what's the leveling going to be like when you have war mode on? Communities still also need to be tested out.
Are you going to join my community?
I was going to make one for testing, but if you want to do one, go ahead. What are you going to call it?
Bob's Bitches.
I doubt that's going to happen.
I'm going to make it happen. You're going to be my bitch.
Oh, dude, you're acting like a diva today. Do you need a Snickers bar or something?
Are you being sponsored?
No. There are also a number of class changes that we are very impatiently waiting for, as well as additional Azerite traits for us to mess around with, to observe, and to talk smack about. So the next 3 months ought to be pretty interesting. There was a huge number of items that were added in this build, mostly pertaining to gladiator and PvP related stuff. I'm going to be doing a separate video that's going to feature all that stuff all smushed together with a couple of initial reactions and little bits of feedback and me going ooh and ah and other little bloviations. A small change in druid travel forms is coming in. What's going to happen is that instead of just a general kind of shapeshift into travel form button, you'll still have that, but you're also going to have separate buttons so that you can glyph your kinds of travel forms to be, well, sorts of different things.
Wait, you're talking about this so you can make money off of glyphs?
Absolutely, so I need to get like excited about this, you feel me?
Oh yeah, this change is great. You'll be able to buy all sorts of glyphs and apply them.
Heck yeah, there's going to be some new glyphs to suit these, including the glyph of the dolphin, the glyph of the humble flyer, and the glyph of the tide skipper. So you're just going to have more forms to like mess around with, so that way you can make me some more of that sweet token money.
I think you're more excited than they are.
Whatever. Do you remember those? Those were Azerite tanks, and you've seen a sample of them over in the Battle for Lordaeron scenario if you played through it. It's not a big deal. You see a tank, and okay, I think I shared a little bit too much. Anyway, these incomplete looking tanks, because they're kind of missing the turrets, we're going to see those as world bosses in Warfronts. And that's pretty much it with regards to Warfront so far. I find that kind of boring. I'm hoping that there's going to be a bit more to do than to just unlock that world boss. As in, I'm hoping that's a little bit more exciting than like the aftermath of Wintergrasp. You know, like more additional quests or something fun like that to do in Arathi Highlands. They're also introducing 3 bosses per continent, 6 in total. My guesstimation is that they're going to be on some sort of rotating pattern. We're going to get 1 per continent per week, and it's just going to rotate like that. Just like how it was in the Broken Isles when the rotation was actually good, when it actually went in a set order rather than the randomness as before, where you had to wait and wait and wait for that one magical world boss to appear so you can finally get your artifact appearance and so on. So this, while a little bit unexciting, hey, at least we're getting them. I'm totally fine with having world bosses to go around and pick off. The new tabards are available for viewing, and these I'll at least cover here in the weekly, and they look pretty good. Overall, I like the look of them. I'll highlight a couple in just a moment, but I just want to take that quick second to be like, hey, you know what, Blizzard, can you just update all the tabards? I mean, there aren't that many of them, but I'd love to see like up-resed versions of the tabards at last. I think it's time, friends. I don't think it's that important to go back and like update every tier set and up-res all that stuff, but these are tabards, and I think that those deserve a little bit of special attention, don't you think? Anyway, one of my favorites is definitely the Storm's Wake tabard because of the very deep blue. I'm a fan of blue. And red, but you know, I'm a fan. Blue's my favorite color, okay? I really like the look of that blue, much better than the typical Alliance blue that we're seeing on the 7th Legion tabard. The other tabards, like I said, they look pretty good, but I also want to note the Champions of Azeroth tabard. This is quite literally the Us tabard. This is a thing that, you know, like I said, it represents us. But I do find that little, that icon to be kind of cool looking. I have a feeling that that is supposed to be the visual representation of the Heart of Azeroth. I don't know if we're going to get like a little cutscene where it's like revealed to us. It didn't seem like that was going to be the case, but if it's going to look like anything, it might look like that. I think the Horde standard is kind of ironic. The Tabard of the Honorbound. This is quite literally the tabard that Saurfang is wearing on his model. And these days, if you folks at home or on the toilet have been keeping track of all the data mined information, the Honorbound? I wonder what that really means anymore. And while on the subject of tabards, these tabards are not, in fact, these are just rewards. They're not going to be devices at which you would throw on a tabard, go into a dungeon, and get experience related to the faction that represents that the tabard represents. And to be honest, I think reputation is like super easy anyway. There are these contracts that you can create with inscription. I haven't been able to test this. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work, but from the looks of it, if you create this item, you create a contract, and I believe it's probably going to have a temporary duration where the world quests that you do are going to contribute rep towards that faction. So in a way, it seems like you can kind of stack reputation, even though you're working on one emissary that might belong to one faction. As long as you have that contract available, you might be able to, it's either going to be you would double dip, you would get reputation from both factions, or the reputation is going to convert from the rep that you're working to the one that you have a contract with. So we'll have to see how that works later. In retrospect though, I don't think that reputation is going to be a big deal, just like it was in Legion. I mean, the kinds of rewards that you get from it, they're entirely cosmetic, they're account bound. It's not like you have to, it's not like you're going to be, I mean, we don't know all the rep rewards yet, right? But from the feel of it, you're not going to be immediately compelled to take all of your alts and make sure that they're all repped up and all that in order to unlock all the major rewards, with the exception of maybe professionally related ones like in Legion. So we'll just have to see. Moving on. We learned just recently that if you happen to transmog your weapons into the kinds of weapons that talk to you, and I'm talking about the Naifu and, well, the lesser things that don't talk as well, okay, I guess they do talk as much, they still talk, curiously enough. From the looks of things, they don't say anything new, and to be honest, I'd be kind of butthurt if they did say anything new, because there are some folks that really aren't going to care to transmog stuff to their artifact weapons. So I mean, it's kind of cool from an Easter egg standpoint, or even from like a, I don't know, maybe like a secret finding standpoint. It's like, okay, if you go to this location and you happen to have you know, the knife equipped, or you have it transmogged to that, and you go to this location, then it'll give you a clue, or it'll give you like some sort of flavor text. I think that's pretty fascinating, but again, I'm a little hesitant to make that kind of a thing, because that would really compel players to stick with their artifact appearances, which isn't entirely a bad thing, but it does feel a little bit restrictive to feel like you have to do it in order to experience a little bit more of that story and get a little bit better of a feel of your class. But I still think it's cool. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, way to walk it back.
Yeah, this was said a little bit earlier in the week, and I said this on Twitter. By the way, follow me on Twitter at SoulSoBreezy. That Prestige is going to be account-wide. Oh boy. So here's how it is supposedly going to work. All the honor that you have accrued across your accounts is just going to be merged into one thing. This might be familiar to players who had played Diablo 3. In Diablo 3, you had this Paragon system where after you reach max level, you gain more experience, and that goes into like a separate leveling sort of thing. So that's what's going to happen here. All the honor that you had acquired, all that progression is going to be smushed into like one little account-wide lump. So if you're prestige level 5 on one character and you're prestige 5 on another character, that doesn't necessarily mean you get to prestige 10, it just means that all the honor that you had accrued from those is going to get smushed together. So it's going to be something not quite 10, but you know, do the math. Activision Blizzard had their quarterly report just the other day. Yeah, exactly. The state of the world of Warcraft is what it is. We're at the lull. We're waiting for the new expansion. All the conversations and all that stuff is about the future. What's coming next? What's coming up? What's in the next build? In the meantime, we have 2 bits of kind of progressive content that you can choose to work on. One is good old mythic raiding. Try to get those last kills, try to get that cutting edge, whatever it is. And the other is to challenge yourself in the highest mythic plus dungeon you can possibly do.
So, how's that plus 15 coming, Soul?
I don't know. Am I supposed to give a damn?
Yeah, if you want that artifact appearance before it goes away.
God God damn it. You know, I gotta remind myself every couple weeks about that so I can be like, oh, that's right. I do need to get around to that. The last bit of news that I'm going to talk about might be semi-spoilery. I might let a couple of minor or even major things leak out, so beware. But I want to carry on for a minute or 9 about just the ongoing back and forth between the Horde and Alliance, more specifically with like the fans and critics that are reacting to all these little developments. This most recent beta build had, once again, a whole bunch of different sets of in-game text, broadcast text, quest-related text, and things like that, that again suggest that the plot is going a certain direction, as in, Sylvanas is an evil bitch, and she needs to be stopped, and she needs to die, and yada 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 yada. But when I sit down and look at all this information that I'm seeing, and looking at all this text that's taken with certain bits of context or taken out of context, it makes me really, 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 I'm looking at the date really quick, it makes me really impatient for this goddamn book Before the Storm to finally freaking come out. So here's the timeline that we're kind of looking at right now, right? So we had patch 735 came out. We got the discovery of Azeroth. We had the Seething Shore Battleground be introduced, but we don't have a lot of in-game context to go with since that. If you guys remind yourselves, over on Live Realms, that is pretty much the last thing that happened. Unless I forgot something. Oh, God help me if I forgot something. Did I forget anything? He's not gonna know, obviously. So technically, the next thing that's going to happen are all the events that will go on in the Before the Storm book. And we know next to nothing about it, but here's what we do know. The chapter sample that we got way back in the day during BlizzCon 2017 talked about the Horde Feast, so it takes place around that timeline. The last thing that we learn from that book excerpt is that Sylvanas wants to march on Stormwind. We do learn from the data mine information that there's some sort of feint where the Alliance thinks that they're marching on, well, not Stormwind, but Silithus, but instead the Horde are going somewhere else, over towards Darnassus and Teldrassil, that region. So we know there's going to be some sort of gap. We also know that in the physical collector's edition for the Battle for Azeroth, there's going to be 2 mini novels that are going to cover, at the very least, some of the events that happen in Ashen Vale and Darkshore. So chances are pretty good that there is going to be no overlap between the Before the Storm book and these 2 little novels. This tells me that there is potentially a lot to learn from this Before the Storm book leading up to that battle for Darkshore and Teldrassil. And the reason I'm getting even more and more hyped about it is because it's a novel. Now, I know that there is a lot of pushback from players that are like, hey, we want to be able to experience all these things in game. It's more meaningful, we like the visuals, and I get that. I'm totally cool with that, but I also get that when it comes to getting into the heads of these characters, looking into Anduin and Sylvanas and such, there's only so much nuance that we will be able to get from these visuals. We can interpret a camera shot, an eye blink, a facial gesture a certain way, but when it's just put into a book and a novel, it straight up tells us what's going on in their head. That's a lot clearer of a picture. So I'm super anxious to find out just what's going on in Sylvanas' head, and maybe Illyria's head if we get to feature her, and all sorts of other characters that we would typically miss out on between now and all these events that we're seeing from this data mine text and these cinematics and these cutscenes. There's just a lot that we're missing. These are the things that would help me understand why Sylvanas is committing these dastardly deeds. We can take the context of what we're reading and connect dots, and that's fun, to be honest. But there's still, at least in my opinion, so much missing from this. It's not a matter of how the immediate Battle for Azeroth starts, like the Battle for Lordaeron and all those events that happen, but just a little bit before that. Even I'm ready to pass judgment that yes, Sylvanas is being like, ooh, kind of a dirtbag, but I really am looking forward to finding out what led her to that, or at least what led to these specific actions, even if this might be like considered her nature. What helps to make this a little bit more interesting is a recent interview with PCGamesn. They did an interview with production director John Haight. I'm gonna have a link below with the full interview, but thanks to Wowhead, I have a couple of bullet points that I want to point out. According to the interview, expansion plots are usually developed 2 to 3 expansions in advance. Something like that makes me wonder a little bit about allied races as to whether or not allied races are going to be central to an expansion release, or if they're just going to be like tacked on like they have been, sort of. The battle for Azeroth is expected to have 2 distinctive stories, which definitely makes sense when it comes to like how we're starting off. The questing that we do in Kulturas and Zandalar are entirely separate. It's only really the war campaigns that kind of bring things together. Future patches, I expect the content to be more unified. Like, we're expected to fight Ashara. I do expect the Horde to fight Ashara. I expect the Alliance to fight Ashara. But as for their perspective, it's like, what's the motivation going to be? The Alliance might approach Ashara with something, pretty obvious, like, for justice, and, we must stop the evil Naga from, destroying our world, if I were to try to channel my inner Turalian. As for the Horde, though, and it really, I guess it depends on who is leading that offensive, it might be kind of the same thing, or it might be, hey, let's subjugate the Naga, or let's, jack their stuff, or, hey, they have powerful things, let's try to, not recruit them as an allied race, but let's, like I said, try to subjugate them or enslave them. That might be their goal. So going at these sort of plot threads in a unified, but at the same time not unified way, I think would be very, very interesting. This Wowhead bullet point reads, one factor of choosing the faction for each allied races is visuals. Blizzard doesn't want one faction to end up with all the cute or tough-looking characters. So it's definitely not guaranteed, but I have a feeling that the Horde are going to get Fox people if they do decide to make them an allied race. Although John Haight did kind of make a counterpoint about data mining and how we, the players and fans and critics, will kind of misinterpret things that have been data mined, thinking that, oh my god, the Vulperian people, they have like a sleep animation and they have this and they have this, when the reality is, okay, we have this sort of framework, we have things set up, but we have no plans to make them an allied race anytime soon. So for all we know, the Vulpera might come 1 or 2 expansions later. I strongly encourage all you folks at home and elsewhere to take all this information that we have, all these things that we know, all the speculation that we've been building up over the past couple months, roll it up into a ball and, hold on to it, but don't judge just based on that. For all the potential missteps and failures that Blizzard may hand to us, I still have full faith that Blizzard intends to entertain us, because that is, that's profitable. And I think that wraps up the news. Finally. So how was your week, everyone? Mine was, it felt kind, to be honest, it felt kind of exhausting. I put out a pretty controversial video this week talking about high elves and what have you. I got quite the response from it, which is really surprising, because overall, view-wise, it wasn't as high traffic of a video as I thought it would be, because I was like, you know what? Let me try to throw some support by taking their weaknesses, or taking the reasons why they shouldn't be an allied race or a relevant race, and then twist that around and turn it into something cool. I was hoping that we would get some cool conversation out of it. We got some conversation out of it, that's for sure. It just didn't turn out to be like the whole thing of positive energy that I was hoping for, and I should have known that. That was definitely a lesson learned, and another testament to, maybe I shouldn't do such opinionated videos all the time. Maybe I should do some lighthearted stuff. So that's what I'm going to try to do over the next couple of weeks or so. I'm going to try to keep that to a relative minimum. You might have noticed that a little bit today in this weekly, but otherwise my week was good. I had finally finished the mage, getting the mage tower appearances for my paladin, thanks to the overabundance of item level that I have. So I almost feel like I'm done. I'm fascinated by a lot of the other classes, but I'm really stuck in my ways of, I only really care about my one character. That's the most important thing in the world to me, and at least with regards to characters. So I don't know if I want to wear myself out with trying to go through the grind of trying to get all the different artifact appearances. I like collecting, but I don't like collecting for the sake of collecting. I like to be able to enjoy the things that I have, and I know, me personally, I can only really enjoy that on one character. The raiding with the guild this week was the raiding with the guild. I actually have a video that I'm going to do right after I shoot this video, and I'm going to put out something where I talk about my personal thoughts on personal loot, but I also talk about the guild too, so I hope you like that one. I don't have a featured YouTuber for this week, but instead I'm going to feature a forum MVP by the name of Zinrockin. For those who use or enjoy Reddit, he hosts a subreddit called WoW Feedback. I find this subreddit quite fascinating. What this guy does and what this guy invites people to do is to take certain bits of feedback all around the internet, including me, the greatest YouTuber of them all. Oh my god. But he takes all these little bits of feedback from videos and forums and articles and throws it all onto the subreddit. So I think it's a really fascinating read for those of you at home that are interested in just seeing what other people think of other things or just looking at opinions, because the main WoW subreddit is a great place for the greater community to share pictures and all that sort of stuff, but not entirely so much in the way of feedback. You get a lot of brigading whenever you see someone, a high-end raider person posted some feedback, and that gets a lot of upvotes. But there are a lot of other opinions out there too, and this subreddit happens to show a lot of these to you. You can take a look at those, and if you happen to identify other opinions or bits of feedback, you can submit that to the subreddit as well. I guess I'll say this now, I really should have reached out to him. Maybe I'll try to do a quick 2 or 3 minute interview with him to just kind of get in his head and give him a chance to promote the subreddit or otherwise to talk about himself and his new role as a forum MVP. That's a brave job to take, I gotta say. And I'm finally looking at my YouTube page. 15,000 subs. Yeah, go us. Yay. So let's do a contest. If you made it this far into the weekly, then you're awesome and you deserve a little something something. So here's what I want you to do, because in a way, it'll help me too. As some of you may know, I love to read stories. I have a series, Tales from the Crossroads, that's sort of languished because I've been kind of holding on to stories, and at the same time, I haven't been getting a lot of submissions of stories. So I would love to hear yours. First, a shameless request. You need to be a subscriber to the channel. Then, in the comment below, tell me a positive story, one of the coolest things that happened to you in this expansion in World of Warcraft Legion. I'm going to take a selection of my favorite stories and feature them in a future Tale from the Crossroads. And of those, one will receive a WoW token. As usual, it's only going to be open for US realms, but I still encourage you to send in your story. It's my way of giving thanks, especially with hitting this milestone of 15,000 subscribers, and for me to get free content to feature. Yeah, but let's make it fun. I would love to read your stories. So that is finally, at last, going to be it for this week. Let's wrap it up. I want to thank all of you once again for watching and listening and supporting me up until now. 15,000 is no joke, so I'm really happy about it. If you want to help support your channel, do it the best way you know how. Spread the word, let people know that I'm out there. Like the videos that you actually enjoy, provide feedback in a comment, and make sure to catch me over on Twitch for my morning show so I can talk with you directly, or on YouTube Gaming where I talk to you directly less, but you can watch me and my guild do our thing. I always love it when people say hi. It is such a treat. Even the birds outside agree with me. So yeah, don't be a stranger. Even if we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, because I'm a freaking horde cuck, I'm always happy to engage and have some civil conversation. So I'll see you folks next week for some less controversial content. I'm going to try to keep it lighthearted and easygoing. And yeah, I'll see you for the next thing that I do. Until then, for me and Bob, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.